Hello, my name is Brandon Fettes. I do apologize, I did have some analog difficulties in setting up this presentation, but hopefully this a little bit more digitized version will suffice. So the area of research that I'm looking at is materializing the invisible infrastructure of urban networks. Invisible infrastructure referring specifically to the information age and the capabilities of the emergence of the internet in moving information around. So as we see the landscape painted today, we see a lot of people plugging in and plugging out of digital and physical spaces, which is, I would say, somewhat a new thing. And for example, when we're in a library, when we're at home, when we're in the store, we're constantly being integrated with physical space. But the times in between, such as when we're waiting for the bus, waiting on the subway, in a park, we then turn to digital spaces to stay connected. Suggesting that we are always trying to be kinetic and connected to the rest of the world. Manuel Castells kind of summed this up pretty well in a quote that he says, where we inhabit spaces and we carry flows, which I think is very poetic. But the thing is there's somewhat of a disparity between these two paradigms. So my question is, how can we harmonize cooperation between physical and digital spaces? My particular interest in this is that in order to get these to kind of interact with each other a little bit more, I think we definitely have to look at the emergence of the internet. It's done so extremely quickly, and it seems to be in the fittest case as to how to move information. So I think that identity speaks as a flexible and adaptive way of moving information rather than kind of the static fixities of a physical space. And also to measure these as a figurative and a literal way of networking. So if you look at this diagram up here, it's very much figurative, but it also suggests something else. You see the two different networks suggesting physical and digital, but if we were to try and put them together, we may find overlaps for nodes and edges, so treating them like an actual network. And I think that can be translated over into the real world, such as comparing a library to Amazon. A library is very much physically oriented. The thing is, it still kind of lacks some diversity and flexibility on the digital end, and vice versa with Amazon. So maybe there is some way, if there is any connections, to get them to speak a little bit clearer together. And also to find some new rhythms. One of my other interests is find some new rhythms in actual physical transportation. So I think as designers, we aren't particularly proud of having a really vehicle-centric city, but if something were a little bit more integrated into not having to travel so far to meet your daily needs, it may even completely redefine what physical travel is in the city. So in applying some of these ideas, I looked to a model from Airbnb to find ways for people to kind of work in a smaller locale, a smaller world network. Being as we're not necessarily restricted to having to work in a fixed place anymore. But then how does that work out? How do we decide? And the decision comes through complexity theory, is that the fittest will emerge itself through self-organization. So if you have condition A, where a person lives just outside the city, but she needs to plan a meeting with a client. She's not bound to working anywhere, so she hears about this website that allows her to go through certain fitness criteria to find an optimal choice for what she needs. So the location, kind of adjacency, and then eventually she'll arrive at the best choice. And in the process, she may actually come up, or may actually have a new experience and be able to propagate the idea of this website further. Then you have condition B, where there's a provider, there's a facilitator that actually, maybe they're a developer, they own some small places, and they happen to frequent this site a lot, and they're noticing some trends specifically from, say, person A. And so then they are able to adapt to meet some of those needs and make their case more fit, but also provide needs for others. So this diagram kind of wraps all of that up. Speaking of these two conditions as energies, linkages, and agents, where there is a resource such as a need that needs to be met, and there's an end to kind of acquire a physical location, but it is communicated through a digital medium, which in this case would be a website, and then vice versa. Condition B is they have a physical resource, but they need to kind of propagate their idea out. So they do so through this digital medium, and so there's kind of this dialogue between literally the physical and the digital, where they can interchange. And that's what I would hope that the future city would look like. So in conclusion, is that I think if we are able to integrate more digital processes into the physical space, we will arrive at kind of redefinitions of what space actually is. So what if we're constantly working at home and we don't have to be in any fixed location? What is the home? And then that kind of speaks to what is a community, because you are now more interactive in your community. And I think that's very exciting, that people can then decide what their home is and what their community is, and also to kind of treat the city as an interface, where it's literally there's this sub-layer of the city at arm's reach. And I think it's kind of emerging in some of the researches, such as the invisible cities, is that there is another layer of information under the city that people can kind of view the city and interact with. And I think that's something that we should take advantage of. And I think the urban dwellers are prepared and ready, being as they are now fully immersed in a digital environment, to kind of understand this sub-layer of data, a city of data, which I think is certainly useful. So thank you very much.